Hello guys, this is Nagaraj KV, Assistant Professor, Government First Aid College, Tiptur. Today I am going to take a programming language as a Python programming. Before that, first of all, we thanks to the Dr. Ashwath Narayana CN, Honorable Deputy Chief Minister and Higher Education Minister, Government of Karnataka, and Sri Pradeep Sir, IAS Commissioner, Department of Collegiate Education, Bangalore. They give support and guide to the teachers to development of Karnataka LMS through e-content. So here, my part of that work in this e-content is to develop the content of Python programming. This Python programming is syllabus for 6th semester BSc and BCA students of Tumkur University. So here, in this Python in that first session, we go through the introduction of Python, then features of Python. In this course or in this Python programming, main objectives of this Python program is to know the basic concepts of construction, the functional and object oriented programming, the basic concepts of to create a database and use of database, working with GUI programming framework and graphics and database applications. First, we go through that an introduction of a Python program. So here, it is introduction mainly we concentrate on a characteristics of Python programming. That Python programming is a very fast growing language and also it is a popular language nowadays. The main usage of this Python programming in the field of machine learning, automation, artificial intelligence, GUI, then application development, web development, Instagram and Dropbox. And also this Python program is a general purpose language. So Python is a interpreted, object oriented and high level language. That Python is invented before the invention of Java program. Java is invented in 1995, but in early than 1989 the Python is invented. So it is the easiest, simpler, beautiful, powerful programming language. And also this Python program is used in the applications in the field of Google, YouTube, Dropbox, Yahoo, NASA, and then also in the Rediff also. This Python program is invented by Guido van Rossum in Netherlands. The main concept of Python, that name comes through that a British comedy movie as a Monty Python's Flying Circus. So this Python programming is a open source. Open source means nobody can pay any money to purchase this Python program. This Python program is freely available in www.python.org website. Anyone can download it and use this Python program for the purpose of development. It is a free of cost, so that is nothing but open source. Python programs available in different versions. In 1994 Python 1.0, in 2000 then 2.0 in 2008, 3 version 3. Now we are using 3.7 something, a Python programming version. So what I told in the previous, that are a small introduction about the Python program. Now we move on to what are the features of Python program. Here Python is a dynamically typed program. Dynamically typed means in C or in Java we have to declare the data types of that variables, but without specifying the data types in that Python program, automatically that takes the data types. That is nothing but dynamically typed. Python is embedded and extensible in C and C++. So we know the concept. Python is a procedure oriented as well as an object oriented. It acts like a C and also it acts like a Java as a object oriented programming language. Python is a portable. Whatever that programs you written one system, then you move to that program to the different platforms of the operating system. There also without any modification that program works. So easily you have to move that program across the platforms. Here in that Python program that contains a large standard libraries compared to C, C++ and Java. Python contains a large number of library functions. So it is also a scripting language. Here Python, it supports for a database, means we have to move the data from front end to back end and then back end to front end. So that contains a database connectivity, scalable, automatic memory management, garbage collection is also available in Python. Here Python allows exception handlings. Exception handlings means error handlings, and also that Python program supports multi-threading. It processes more than one job at a time. It is a multi-threading, multitasking. So similar to Java, that Python is also a multi-threading software. So purely this Python programs contains a syntax of C language. Just we know that or we can briefly know that what is the difference between Python program and a C++ C language. C++ is also an object oriented, that C is a procedure oriented language. Here what is the difference between Python program and C language? Why we learn Python? Why not that C does not support for an object oriented? Why it is the object procedure oriented? Just we know the differences between a Python program and a C program. Here that first difference is a Python is a object oriented, then C language is a procedure oriented. In the case of a Python, that execution of the program is slower compared to C program, because that C is a text mode software. There that execution is very fast. Within a fraction of a second it compiles the program, it runs the program, it produces the output result. Compared to that, Python is slower because it is a GUI based. Then in Python program, lines of code is less, lines of code is more in C language. No type declared for variables. Type declaration is must in C language. Debugging simple, debugging difficult. Here in the Python we have to rename the functions. Renaming the function renaming mechanism. No function renaming mechanism in C language. Easy to learn because it is a GUI based. Compared to that, Python is harder because it contains everything should be in the commands. There is a garbage collector in Python. There is no garbage collector in C language. So Python is a general purpose programming language. Then C is an hardware related applications. Large library functions are available in Python. Limited memory library functions are available in C language. There is no pointer concepts in Python. There is a pointers concepts are there in the C language. That pointer is nothing but a referential variable which can hold the address of the another variable. Type discipline dynamic and strong as a Python. Type discipline static and weak in C language. Python supports while loop and for loop, but C language support while loop, do while and for loop. There is no switch statement. There is no multiple statement of switch is not available in Python, but there is a switch statement in C language. Memory allocation and deallocation is done automatically in PVM. PVM means Python Virtual Machine. Same thing we called in Java. It is a JVM, Java Virtual Machine. Our source code is converted into a bytecode first. So here in Python, memory allocation and deallocation is done automatically by PVM. Memory allocation and deallocation is not automatic in C language. Only single dimensional array NumPy in Python, both single and multidimensional array in C language. Automatic increment for loop variable, there is no automatic increment in C language. Array index can be positive and negative integer, but in C language it should be a positive only. Another main difference in Python and C that Python supports for indentation requires. Indentation means then expressions, comments that should be represented in the form of indentation, but there is no indentation in C language. Whenever that any lines comes to the new line, that represents a new line in Python, but semicolon represents the end of the line in C language. No inline statement in Python. There is an inline statement in C. These are all the some standard difference between Python and C program. Now we go to that Java is a pure object-oriented language. Then Python is also an object-oriented language. Then what is the difference between Python and the Java? Because both are object-oriented languages. Previous that comparison is C language and Python. C is procedure-oriented, then Python is object-oriented. But here Python and Java both are object-oriented programming languages. Then what are the new things are there in Python? Just we see that what is the difference between Python and Java. Here main that Python is a interpreted language, but Java is a compiled and interpreted language. In Python dynamically typed, but in Java it is a statistically typed. Statistically typed means static, means there is no automatic. Python easy to learn and use, complex learning in Java. Python it is a high level procedure oriented and object oriented programming language. But Java multi-platform, pure object oriented and network centric. So other difference Python and Java needs 2 lines of code to read from file, here 10 lines of code to read. Indentation to separate code. Need curly braces for beginning and end of function and class definition. Single and multiple inheritance supported by Python, multiple inheritance is partially done. More string functions are there in Python, limited string functions in Java. So other difference between Python and Java is less portable, can run on any computer or mobile device in Java. In Python, excellent for scientific and numeric computing, machine learning apps, best for desktop GUI apps, embedded systems, web application services in Java. In Python, there is a weak connectivity, but in Java, it is a stable connectivity. No type declaration in Python. Here, variable declaration must in Java. Here also, that Python contains only while and for loop, but in Java that supports both while, do while and for loop. There is no switch statement once again in Python program, but there is a switch statement in Java. For loop variable increment automatic in Python, not automatic in Java. Memory allocation and deallocation is automatically done by PVM, Python Virtual Machine. Memory allocation and deallocation is automatically by JVM in Java, Java Virtual Machine. Then other difference between Python and Java is Python is a only single dimensional array, that is NumPy, but Java supports both single and multidimensional array. Here, an array index can be positive or negative integer in the case of in Python, but in Java it should be a positive only. In Python it needs a indentations, but Java there is no indentations. New line for end statement, semicolon for expression separator in Python. Semicolon of terminate, comma to separate variables and expressions in Java. Lists and dictionaries can store objects of any type including numbers and lists in the case of a Python. But in Java it can store stack, linked list or vector, but not primitive data types in Java. So finally we move to the just what we learned in the previous concept. So it is a revision. Just we completed introduction of Python, overview of Python, then features of Python. Then just we compare Python and C language and Python and Java language. What are the differences in procedure oriented and object oriented means Python and C. Pure object oriented both the programs are Python and Java. We learned that what are different comparisons in Python and C and also Python and Java. So we learned a lot of things in the introduction of the Python program. So that ends the first session. Thank you guys. Thank you one and all.